Star Wars fans, I've got a new star for you. It's called Star Wolf, and it's in a shattered galaxy. Coming up next, right here on The Right Stuff. You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Poconos, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. Star Wars fans, I've got a new star for you. It's called Star Wolf, and it's in a shattered galaxy. Coming up next, right here on The Right Stuff. You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Poconos, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. Hi, and welcome to the show. You're at the right place at the right time. I'm your girl, Parker J. So glad you are here to join me for another edition of The Right Stuff, the right place to be at Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right here in the D. You may be wondering why I'm so excited. Well, I'm excited for a lot of different reasons. One thing I'm excited about is that my book, The Cure, is free, and it's free for you today only. You can get it free on Amazon.com. Make sure you pick up a copy because it is free. And you know what's going to happen with The Cure is that the pre-order for A Time to Say Goodbye, which is the second in the Michigan Sweet Romance series, is available for you now to get at a special price of 99 cents. You can't beat that. So here you're going to get 2 books for 99 cents. You can't beat that. So go ahead, get a copy of The Cure and Time to Say Goodbye, which is the second of the Michigan Sweet Romances. Another thing I'm excited about is that I'm going to be talking to my boy, David G. Johnson. He is the author of today's book, Star Wolf, part of the Shattered Galaxy series. When you get done with this book, you're going to scramble to your Kindle, scramble to your computer, and get a copy of Star Wolf. It is so good. I read this book in a couple of days. That's how good it was. And because it's a sci-fi story with a lot of space opera kind of things, oh my gosh, if you love Star Wars, you're going to love Star Wolf. So if you want to talk to David, you can by calling in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to David G. Johnson. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff radio show. We'll be right back.
If you are an author looking to gain visibility for your books, then AuthorShout.com is the place to go. We have a wide variety of affordable products and services to include a member zone that will help you get the word out about your books. Our team here at AuthorShout.com specializes in creating stunning digital products to include book banners, teaser videos, book trailers, book covers, and a whole lot more. So what are you waiting for? Stop by AuthorShout.com today and let our team connect you with a world of new readers.
Are you a reader looking for more compelling Christian fiction? Maybe something a little more edgy or a bit more real? Are you tired of most Christian fiction shying away from the truth and settling for a rose-tinted view of the world and its issues? Or are you an author who has a compelling story to tell, but you're afraid it doesn't jive with today's brand of Christian or secular fiction? Are you tired of Christian publishers telling you that your content is too edgy? Or maybe you've tried submitting your content under the radar to secular publishers only to be told your themes are a bit too religious. We invite you to take a look at the Crossover Alliance. We are an online publishing company that specializes in edgy Christian speculative fiction with Christian themes and real-world content. Our company is formed from authors and readers just like you who are breaking into the mainstream and Christian markets with this compelling genre. Head over to the www.thecrossoveralliance.com for all the details on who we are, what we do, and what we accept. Right now, if you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll receive a free digital copy of our first short story anthology. Check us out today and help us spread the word about the Crossover Alliance, where light shines brighter in the darkness.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're talking to your girl, Parker J., as we talk about Star Wolf, which is book 1 of the Shattered Galaxy series. I cannot wait for you to delve inside this book. So I'm going to encourage you right now to stop whatever you're doing. Get your Kindle, get your computer, get your tablet, your iPhone. I don't care. Go ahead and get a copy of this book today. Star Wolf is an absolutely phenomenal story written by a wonderful author. I've had the pleasure to know for quite a while now. We met on Facebook, and we met while the show was in Genesis. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, in my live chat, I mentioned that David was one of the first people to reach out to me about doing speculative fiction. And you know, David, as I get ready, I usually introduce you, but you're such a wonderful member of the show. I don't have to even introduce you like formally, but I will in a minute. But, you know, David, what's so funny is that when we first started doing this show, I had you and 3 other authors on the show, and we were talking for about 90 minutes about speculative fiction. You know, and then now 4 years later, you're writing your own stuff. Not that you weren't then, but now you're writing more books and stuff like that. Isn't it amazing how time flies so fast, and the friendships that we've developed over the years become richer and deeper? You know, we've come to really appreciate each other as authors. We look forward to working together and all those kind of things. You know, I think that's what's so important about the indie author community is the fact that those relationships are formed through our love for the written word. What would you say, David?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Parker. I mean, relationships are really everything, and you and I are members of groups online and author groups, and I think one of the great things is that everyone wants to produce better quality Christian fiction. I mean, nobody wants to write bad books. And by working together, developing a thick skin, being willing to give and take criticism and feedback, I think all of us have improved our writing. And I mean, I'm really proud of Star Wolf. I think it's my best book yet, and a lot of that is because of collaboration with the community. When you get stuck on a scene or something like that, or you're not quite sure that something comes off realistically, and being able to go to fellow authors and say, hey guys, I needed another pair of eyes on this. What do you do? And I think the result is we all get better and we all learn and grow together. And I think that's critical.
I think I agree with you. It is very critical for that relationship that we get at communities. I know when the indie author movement really started, people were thinking that we had to fight each other, that we had to, I got to make this person look bad because they write in my genre, they make me look bad. And you look like, what in the world? And we always say this, David, and I say it, 7 billion people, chances are not all of them are going to like my book. You know what I mean? Out of 7 billion people, maybe 600 billion will, 6 billion will like them, but out of now, a lot of people won't like them, And so I really appreciate that over the years, you've been such a huge help to this show. I know you prayed with me. You've been helpful in the structure, how to do things, just all kind of things. And I really appreciate that. So that's why I want to let our listeners know, David has been an integral part of Right Stuff for probably since its inception. And I can't thank you enough for that. And for those of you, David is also the admin of Iron Sharpening Iron, which I mentioned in my live chat this afternoon. So if you are an author who likes to write speculative fiction, or you're a reader who likes to read speculative fiction, David, tell them what they're going to get by joining the Iron Sharpening Iron group.
Well, the great thing about Iron Sharpening Iron is ideally it is an authors group. It's there, primarily as a workshop group that we do criticism. But, a lot of fans, we have a lot of folks who are not writers there. They may be book bloggers, or they may be publishers. They may be, involved in various ways, or just, very avid fans. And a lot of fans like to connect with the authors that they read, and ISI is a great place to meet quality Christian authors that write speculative fiction, the science fiction, fantasy, alternate reality, steampunk, any of the tangential subgenres of speculative fiction, and to be able to connect with the authors, see the creative, you can be a part of that. We get a lot of feedback from.
Hey, Dave, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you come closer to your mic?
Sorry. Hopefully, maybe not the cell phone service, but yeah, I mean, it's just all about a place to connect with authors and for authors to connect with each other. And like I said, the real goal is just to produce better Christian speculative fiction.
A lot of people think when we use the words Christian and speculative fiction, they don't belong. And I had one of my followers from PJC Media, they said, I had no idea there were so many people who wrote Christian spec fiction. And I said to myself, I have to be honest with you, in the last 5 years, I've probably, just going on 5 years next year, imagine that, Dave, I've probably interviewed the tip of the iceberg of Christian speculative fiction. And so, how do we describe this, David? We've talked about this off and on, but how do we describe Christian speculative fiction? Is it basically a gospel story masking as a fantasy story? Tell us what Christian speculative fiction is for our listeners who are new to this genre.
Okay, I think bad Christian speculative fiction is, a sermon wrapped in the trappings of a story, and I think that maybe some of the exposure that's been out there has been some of the early works and by authors that maybe didn't know how to put the two together very well, because it is difficult. You're telling a basically untrue story when your desire is to teach and preach the truth of God. And so that is a challenge to blend those two together. But quality authors manage to tell a solid story, in the speculative fiction genre, be it sci-fi, fantasy, whatever. It's a solid, engaging story, but there will be Christian voice characters. At least that's my particular model for it. I'll have Christian voice characters in there. So anything that comes through regarding teaching truth and things like that, it comes as a natural interaction for the characters. You're writing for your readers, not at your readers. And I think that's the key. That is the key to good Christian speculative fiction, is to be able to bring the faith elements in as a natural part of the story and natural character development for who those characters are, rather than writing them as a targeted message to the readers.
Now, are we saying there's nothing wrong with being very overt about the message? I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think people use speculative fiction as a way to escape. I'm a Trekkie, okay? And I was just watching, I was watching TNG, and I was watching the whole saga with, Worf, son of Morg. I was watching that and just watching the first, and how I love that whole thing. I can escape, and, he slaps the guy and kills the guy. I love it, okay? So we use speculative fiction as a way to escape. So we're not saying that it's a bad thing to be overt in your message, but generally speaking, people, they don't mind having those subtle entrances into it because they're using the platform to escape. You want to add to that, Dave? Am I saying it right? Go ahead and correct me where I need to be. Tweak that.
Yeah, I think, there's nothing wrong with being overt. I consider most of my works fairly overt as far as the Christian elements. I don't make any effort to hide or disguise them, but again, it's how they're introduced. It's not the point of the story, but it may be a very central thing to certain characters. That my main Christian voice character in Star Wolf, for example, is Dr. John Salzmann, who's kind of, he's been a wastrel, he's been a dilettante, he's basically a trust fund kid, his whole life, and he's been kind of pampered and he went down the dark side, but he married a woman who kind of brought him back and put faith back as an important element. And now all of a sudden he finds himself among this crew where this guy who's really never been a paragon of faith is the most faithful voice in there, and he's facing questions that he's never had to face before, and so I think that it's an overt message, but it's also wrapped in reality. The characters are not Mary Sue's, they're not perfect, they're representative of actual people going through the actual situations and encounters, and I think that brings the element of truth to it that makes it appealing to readers. The characters have to be real. They can't be caricatures.
Exactly. And sometimes that can be the downfall of a very overt message towards it. We're not saying that people can't do it effectively, but we'll make people that we can at least relate to. Like one thing in the story of Starwolf, we're going to get to that for our listeners in a few moments. Not Starwolf. Sorry. Starwolf, we're going to get into is Molon, which is the main character of the story. He's the merc captain of the ship. And the thing about Molon is that he grew up around people of the faith. He grew up around them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their faith is his. And so I thought that was a very interesting take on this story, that you have someone who grew up around faith, but that necessarily doesn't belong to them. They accept bits and pieces of it, like Molon. He accepts bits and pieces of it, but he doesn't really quite think this is all worth it, or he doesn't quite get why certain things happen. And so here you are. What makes it interesting, we're talking about Molon Hawkins, is that he's a Lubanian. So go ahead and tell our listeners who's a Lubanian for our Star Wars fans who like this type of thing. Tell us what a Lubanian is.
Right. The Lubanians are wolf humanoids. They're basically an alien race. They're one of the most common races on human worlds that interact with humans, because their area of space borders the side of the human space for a huge portion of the border. So there's been a lot going across, and the relationship between humans and Lubanians has been relatively good throughout history. Well, several of the Lubanians actually ended up serving in the human space navy, and there's been an integration of the society. And Molon's birth father was a soldier, and he was killed when Molon was very young. And one of the close partners of his father, that was a human, they had made promises to each other to look after each other's families. And so Molon was actually adopted and raised by humans, and they were human faithful, and they did give him a lot of different insights, and we're going to see that as other books play out. We're going to see exactly how different Molon is from other Lubanians. He's very much human. He hasn't got a lot of the knowledge and things from growing up in Lubanian society, so he's kind of an odd one out. But yeah, these were his adoptive parents. These were the people who cared about him and raised him. But he did not, inherit their faith, and I think there's an important reality element to that, because a lot of, as someone who is in ministry myself, there's always a wonder and a struggle with our children. Will they find that faith on their own? Because faith is not inherited; it's not genetic. It's a decision that each person has to make. And just because a child grows up in a Christian household doesn't necessarily mean that they will inherit the parents' faith. And a lot of people who do grow up with faith parents, or either missionaries or ministry, have a bit of a rebellion against that. And there's things they don't understand, and they feel that maybe their parents devoted too much time towards ministry and not enough towards the family. And so there can be that resentment element. And so I wanted to deal with that a little bit with the character of Molon. He grew up in a faith household, had very loving parents who cared a lot about him, adoptive parents that cared a lot about him, but he still has his own questions to struggle through. And I think that, that goes back to what I said before. The characters need to be real. They can't be perfect and with no problems and no issues, because that makes for a boring character. But because people are multi-level, people are, have questions, people have struggles, people have layers to their personalities and what drives them. And I think that if you're going to write believable fiction, you need to have characters that mirror that reality.
Good points there, Dave. Good points. And when we come back, we'll be talking more to David G. Johnson and his book, Star Wolf. What I want you to do is get your tablet, get your Kindle, get your phone. I don't care. Get something right now. Download Star Wolf today. It's part of the Shattered Galaxy series. And I already know you are going to love it. I enjoyed this book. I read it in a couple of days. It has a lot of action, some twists and turns, a great storyline. And then for those of us who love the mythos of Star Wars and the mythos of Star Trek, where we kind of get entrenched into this world, this is going to happen to you because you're going to find yourself falling into which faction are you? What's the story behind the Shattered Galaxy? Why is it called Shattered Galaxy? You know, where is Molon going to succeed in his missions? You know, what's going to happen with this character and that character? So much is going on in the Shattered Galaxy series. So I want you to get the first installment of that today. It's on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. We're going to go ahead and take another quick break. When we come back, more with David G. Johnson. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
The Speculative Fiction Cantina is your weekly hypodermic injection of science fiction, fantasy, horror, alternate history, and things weird and wonderful in the world of books and writers. You'll hear from writers who bend the rules and drive the narrative. We ask authors the hard questions. We do the show in our pajamas. Join S. Evan Townsend on this journey over the rainbow and through the looking glass. The Speculative Fiction Cantina on Right Stream Radio every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
God gives humans the gift of making amazing stories to glorify Him. At speculativefaith.com, our ministry is to help fans explore fantasy, science fiction, supernatural stories, and beyond from an intentional and biblical Christian perspective. We share daily articles and have extensive archives tackling hot topics like end times beliefs, the art of writing, creative excellence in the Christian subcultures, discernment, sex, magic, Harry Potter, and space aliens and the Bible. If you are a parent or anyone else with a discriminating palate, our reviewers explore fantastical novels, movies, television, and games in light of God's beauty, goodness, and truth. Want to find Christian stories? The Spec Faith Library lists every fantastical novel we can find from a Christian author. It's all part of our mission to discern, engage, and enjoy fantastical human creativity in honor of our Creator, Jesus Christ. SpeculativeFaith.com, exploring fantastical stories for God's glory.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. I'm your host, Parker J. We are talking to David G. Johnson. He is the author of the book Star Wolf. If you like Star Wars, Star Trek, if you like space operas and science fiction, you want a great book, this is the book you want to get today. And I got to tell you some other exciting news that we just learned during the break. Dave, please tell them what that exciting news is.
Yes, Parker. We've been waiting for a few weeks for approval of the final files, but the Star Wolf audio book is now also available on audible.com for those who prefer to listen to books rather than read them. I have a great producer, Ian McEwen. No, that's not Ian McKellen. Gandalf did not narrate my but Ian McEwen is the producer and narrator on that, and really did a great job with the voicing and the characters. From reading my other books, I always write a large cast, and so it's very challenging for a narrator to differentiate the different characters and with individual voices for something like that. And Ian really did a fantastic job with it. So I'm really proud of what we produced, and it's a great audiobook. So that's available live now on audible.com.
I would have loved if Gandalf had narrated your book. You should have called him.
Yeah, he was busy. So fortunately, Ian McEwen was available, but Ian McKellen was a little tied up.
You know what? It's okay, because I know those of us who love audiobooks, and actually it's a growing market, David, with audiobooks, because people don't have the time to sit and read, but they're always doing something else. I know, like, Peter Younghusband, I know you know him, Peter Younghusband. He's a great addition to our network here. You know, he listens to audiobooks, I think he listens to it, or when he's reading, he reads on the tube when he's going back and forth from work. So that's why that market for audiobooks is there. So guess what? You just found out today there's another way for you to listen to Star Wolf via audiobook. Go ahead, download your copy today. However you get it. If you get it through paperback, if you get it through Kindle, audio, get it today. The reason why is because this book is phenomenal. And I had the pleasure of reading it when it came out. Actually, I had the pleasure of knowing about it, a year and a half before you put it out, David? Because I had the pleasure.
It's been a long, slow process on this one, Parker, and a lot of stops and starts. But I'm really proud of the end result. I think it was worth taking the time. I had a great editor that worked with me on the book and made a lot of great suggestions. And like I said, some of the tough scenes had some great feedback from our Iron Sharpening Iron community. So, I mean, I think this is just a product of a lot of love and a lot of input and quality folks, being a part of the project and supporting and encouraging during the journey to get this book out. Yeah.
Dave, I got to put a shout out to our anthology because Molon is also in various different ways. He's in different parts of the world. So we should totally just put a shout out to the Iron Sharpening Iron anthology. You think we should do that, Dave?
Yeah, it was a really interesting project. As you know, Parker, you were one of the authors, and we put it out to 10 authors. There ended up being 8 of us that finished the project and saw it through to completion. But we all submitted individual characters, profiles, and what we thought was instead of having the same setting and then each author writing his own part of the story with the different characters set in the same setting, like many anthologies have done that. Robert Asprin did that with Thieves' World, and even George R.R. Martin did that with the Joker's Wild series. And but I said, let's put a different twist on this. Let's keep the characters, essentially some essentials of their personality the same, but let's let each author write them in their own iteration in a multiverse. So what we did is we each came up with our own short story using the same basic characters, but changing them based on their setting and in a different part of the multiverse. And so it was a really great experiment. It was so much fun to do. And we got 8 great stories out there. And that anthology is called Realms of Our Own. And so if you search on Amazon, you'll find all 8 books. They have the same graphic on the cover. It's just the titles are different. But there are 8 individual short stories that use the same characters and rewrite them and reinvent them and reimagine them with the different authors. And, I think we had some really, really great stories come out of that. It was a lot of fun to work on. And, yes, my submission was Molon Hawkins, which is not the same Molon Hawkins from Star Wolf, but a iteration of him in another galaxy, in another part of the multiverse. And I really fell in love with the character during that exercise, and I said, I really want to flesh this out. And that was the birth of Star Wolf.
Yeah, and I like how that particular project, we had the opportunity to really see how other people viewed our characters, which is an insight into people, how they view us. You know what I mean? It's interesting how, because in my book, and for those of you who know, it's Godforsaken, that was my story with Molon in it. In my book, Molon, he's a half-human, half-Doberman Pinscher Lubanian. That's how I viewed him. And so he has he gets activated through adrenaline. His dog genes get activated through adrenaline, and then he becomes like this upright Doberman Pinscher who is crazy. And so that's how he was in my story. And in your story, my character I submitted was Natasha Genesis, and she is a nightclub?
She was like an underworld figure. She was a big underworld figure on this one planet, and she was a nightclub owner in her official capacity, but she had her fingers into everything that was going on in the underworld on that planet. So, it was really. When I read your character, I just saw her as this great underworld figure. So it was a perfect match.
And we look like we have a caller calling in. Caller, how are you doing today?
Hey, Parker, it's Pastor George.
Hey, George, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, Dave, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Pastor George, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. All right, listen, I love Star Wars, and I love everything that you've written, but what I really want to know is when your daughter's next book is coming out.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That may be a while, brother. She really enjoyed the first process, but she had started the second book, the follow-up to Dragon's Touch, and it was called Dragon's Heart, and she got about 50,000 words into it, and it got shelved. Now she's in college, and she just had a lot of other priorities, and she can start in college now. And I mean, I'm hoping that one day she will return to it, but it may be a few years before she figures out what she wants to do with that and goes back to it. But yeah, her book was really fantastic. Thank you for your kind words and your support. But yeah, Dragon's Touch, she did a great job with that. She wrote that book when she was 15 years old. We did it as a nano Remo project, National Novel Writing Month, as you know, Parker. Some of the listeners may not be aware of that, but that's a thing where people take the month of November and really just sit down and pour out a first draft of a book and then start revising it. And that was a nano project that she did, and we cleaned it up and got it published. And I mean, yeah, I think it was a fantastic work. And let's pray together, George, that she will get that bug and want to pick it back up. Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know how I feel about letting her education get in front of my book.
That's right.
I don't know how
exactly.
I feel about that. I think you need to have a sit down with her, Dave, because she left us hanging.
Yeah,
that was.
I've worked with her. We worked out the outline and stuff together. She's got some great ideas for the next book. So I mean, I think it'll be a phenomenal story when she decides to sit down and finish.
I can't wait. George, do you have some more you want to talk, or another question or a comment?
Yeah, just tell her, get her priorities straight. Books come before anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure the people providing her scholarship may have that same understanding.
Do I need to write a letter for you? I can write a letter.
We'll get them on board, maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, George.
Yeah. We'll talk to you later. God bless you.
All right. Thanks, George.
I like how George mentions your daughter, because you gave her that gift of writing, and that was in you. I remember when her book came out, and I pick up the book. I'm supporting David. That's how I'm thinking. I'm supporting David. So I'm going to read his daughter's book. I'm like, I hope I don't have to go, wow, I haven't gotten into it yet. One of those numbers. But her book was so good, and that the same passion you have for quality work, for quality fiction, that you pass on to your daughter. And a number of us were reading the book, and we're like, a 15-year-old wrote this? That's the first thing we thought. A 15-year-old wrote this. We couldn't believe it. And now, 3-4 years later, I feel old as I say that. She's starting college now, and it's phenomenal to see her. So let her know that she was mentioned on the show, and that this is going to be worldwide, and we hope everyone hears it so they'll know that we want the second book, Ariel. So I'll just let her know.
Yeah, she had a lot of people chiming for the second book. The book did really well. It was very well received, and like I said, she, believe it or not, she really hated to write. I mean, used to be a chore to get her to, finish a 1-paragraph assignment, for school. And when I started writing the Kadash Chronicles, which was my first fantasy series, and she got to play a part of that. And there was a teenage character in there, Jesslyn, that was a major... I needed that teen element, and she would read my stuff, and she's like, "Oh, Dad, that's not realistic. That teenager would never say that." So she actually kind of helped me with the character, to develop that one character with some realistic teenage, reactions in there, and she just got excited about the story because she was one of my alpha readers, I guess it was, and helped in that development, and then she just got a bug to create stories of her own, and she got the idea, and the result was Dragon's Touch, and it really did well. I was very proud of her. She made Daddy proud.
And, that's what I really liked about it is with your own works, which is so very good. You have very detailed worlds, and people are literally immersed in there. I remember when I read Kadash Chronicles, I read the first two of Kadash Chronicles, and I remember when I read the prologue of the first book, I was at work. And I said, I can't read this right now. I can't read this right now because they'll be like, where is Parker? She's not back at her desk yet, And so I said, I have to wait. So I had to wait till I got home because I read it and literally, because I got the PDF copy of it. So literally I wanted to just sit there on my tablet and just move. I said, nope, we can't do this right now. I remember thinking that because I was like, I can't read this now. I remember thinking that because I said, this is so good. And to see that in your daughter had that same ability to capture our attention in our world, don't take that lightly, Dave. Don't take it lightly. And let Ariel know that, she does have a fan, and we would love to get some more from her. When we come back, we'll be talking more to David. I know some of you are like, can we get back to Star Wolf, right? But let me tell you this. If you want to get into Star Wolf, go ahead and get a copy of Star Wolf today. It just came out on Audible. So if you want the audio book, go to Audible or wherever the audiobooks are, get a copy of Star Wolf. If you don't want to look to the Audible, get the Kindle, get the paperback, get a copy of Star Wolf today. You're going to love it. If you're a fan of Star Wars, Star Trek, space opera, sci-fi stories, you're going to love it. Go ahead and get a copy of this today. When we come back, we're going to get more into Star Wolf with Dave. You can call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
The Speculative Fiction Cantina is your weekly hypodermic injection of science fiction, fantasy, horror, alternate history, and things weird and wonderful in the world of books and writers. You'll hear from writers who bend the rules and drive the narrative. We ask authors the hard questions. We do the show in our pajamas. Join S. Evan Townsend on this journey over the rainbow and through the looking glass. The Speculative Fiction Cantina on Right Stream Radio every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Engaging the culture's imagination through speculative fiction, the Untold Podcast produces audio fiction from a Christian worldview. Find us over at untoldpodcast.com, where we partner with authors to tell science fiction, fantasy, supernatural, and horror stories. Find links at untoldpodcast.com to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and a variety of other platforms. Each month we produce high-quality audio fiction that's free to download and free to listen. Our submissions are open, and we're always looking to add another great story to over 24 hours of narrative entertainment. Find all of our audio fiction over at www.untoldpodcast.com.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer: no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 followers on Twitter. joeytweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff on WPJC 104.5. We are talking today to David G. Johnson and his book, Star Wolf. I want to let you know it is available on Kindle. It's available on paperback, and it's available on Audible. So if you like to read, whether through vision or hearing, however you do it, you can get a copy of this book today. It is part of the Shattered Galaxy series. So what do we mean by series, Dave? Go ahead and give us a little bit insight into Shattered Galaxies series.
Okay, well, it's not so much a series per se. I like to do something different with each book. You'd mentioned the prologues with the Kadash Chronicles, and they were really almost like a story behind the story. You kind of read each book and put the pieces of the prologue together, and it kind of put together bits and pieces of the backstory, and that was something different that I did with that And what I'm doing with Shattered Galaxy that's different is it's not so much a series that needs to be read in any particular order. This is more episodic. Shattered Galaxy is really more than a series. Is it going to be a setting? A little bit like Star Trek. The Star Trek universe, there's a lot of different storylines that you have within Star Trek. You have the original series, you have Next Generation, you have Voyager, and all these. There's totally different stories, totally different storylines, different characters, but they're set in the same universe. They're set in the same setting. And that's what I wanted to do with Shattered Galaxy. I actually have an idea for several different storylines and spin-offs from this series. So there will be future books with Molon and his crew. In fact, the next one will be Resistance is Fertile, and it will be a follow-on story from what happened in Star Wolf. But there will be characters that will be introduced that will show up here that will actually have their own spin-off stories, and there's whole other ideas that they're going to play into this big political fight that is going on with the factions in the galaxy. And, I mean, galaxy is huge, right? So there's going to be billions of stories to choose from. And I really love about this setting is it gives me so much freedom to write different stories with different characters and explore different ideas and not have to reinvent the universe literally for each different set of stories. And I think this is going to be a mainstay, a staple for me for a long time to write in within the same setting. And I'm really proud of the work that's gone into this. And a couple of the reviewers had mentioned the intricacy that's there. I did put a lot of work, as you mentioned, it was a long road for this book, yes. But so much of that was not necessarily writing this one story. It was building this entire complex universe with a history and interactions in a political setting and the effects of the wars and the effects of the events of history and how they carry through. And so I'm going to be able to really take this setting and explore just tons of different stories and storylines and characters that are going to be fascinating. And I think the readers will become a fan of the setting, not just individual stories within them.
One thing about Shattered Galaxies that I want our listeners to know is that the idea is very unique, at least for me. I was very intrigued by the idea, and David does do a phenomenal job of pulling you into the story. One thing that I made note, even in my review, Dave, and you can attest to this, was that there's a lot of terminology going on. And for anyone who is a Star Trek fan, I mean, I know, some of the terminology, but you really don't know it. So it's just pseudoscience, mumble jumble, essentially. Like they'll say you have to get the avocator. I mean, what's the avocator? But, in context, you get the idea of it. So what happens is that he's very good at, if there's an unfamiliar term or a person, what he does is he instantly puts you back in there. And I think that's essential for people who don't even read a lot of sci-fi. And I'm telling you, what? If you don't read sci-fi, this is the book you want to read. That's what I'll let people know. And that's because some people can be bogged down by the terminology, and they can be if it's too much, I don't want to hear it, because then you got to get a dictionary to learn what's going on. So what David did, he put a very neat glossary at the back of the book so you can reference anything. Anything you don't know, you can reference it. And probably every single term that may have been unfamiliar to me is in that glossary. And I appreciate that detail that went into the story, because you're not just appealing to people who like sci-fi, you're appealing to people who don't like sci-fi, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and I mean, an author's got to tread that fine line. You've got to teach your audience what these terminology means, because in a new setting, several hundred years in the future, they're going to have different words. They're going to have different terms. They're going to be things that are just normal for them to say. That they're not going to necessarily spell out. We say CD, right? Yeah. We don't say compact disc every time that we want to say CD, right? Everybody knows what a CD is, and a Bluetooth. We don't necessarily, talk out. It's a wireless communication transmitter, whatever it is. It's a Bluetooth. Everybody knows those terms, and so it's very natural for characters to speak that way. So what I try to do is walk that tightrope, give enough training and context to where people can pick up the clues for what they're talking about. But there's certain things that are just taken for granted within this book that nobody's going to take time to explain. You know, like the galactic directions. You know, you don't have north, south, east, and west because you're in the galaxy. You're out in the middle of space. There's no directions. So how do you have directions? And there are galactic directions, like coreward. It's more towards the core of the galaxy. And, you know, rimward, it's more towards the rim of the galaxy. So that's what the galactic directions are. And people are not going to really explain that when they talk to each other, no more than we would explain what north, south, east, or west is. So for things like that, I think the glossary really comes in handy for those who need to pick up the terms. But the hope is that as the fandom develops and as more and more readers get used to it, and the terminology will become second nature, just like it has with Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans and things like that. And I think fans of the series will pick it up very quickly and become familiar with the terms and won't even notice it in a lot of future stories. So.
And that is my hope. That's my hope for you, Dave, that this gets picked up by Hollywood or even a small production company, because it has that type of potential to bring about avid fans. Like right now, there are people who are into The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Star Trek. I mean, there are people who love we like our fantasies. We like our fandom. We like to get involved in, you know, the things that we like, our entertainment. We really get involved into it. You know, like for me, I'm a Trekkie fan, and I was going on and on about why I'm so reluctant to watch Discovery right now. I'm just very reluctant to watch it because I think I have my own thoughts about it. So I'm not going to mention what they are, but I have my own thoughts about it. But we love our entertainment, and we love to get attached to our characters, and that really has the potential. One thing I was telling David is that he can't choose the Hollywood cast for this book. He can't choose it, okay? Because his choices are horrific. But those of you who listen to me, when you get a copy of Star Wolf and you kind of imagine who would be a good character to play this, you are forbidden to say Don Cheadle. You can't use him, okay? You can't use John Cheadle. Okay. You can't not use him. I'm telling you, Don Cheadle would be perfect for Simmons. He'd be a great actor. He's exactly the method for it. She wants to put Rock in the movie somewhere, but I think if Rock's going to, you know, Dwayne Johnson's going to be in the movie for Star Wolf, he's got to play Dub. I mean, he's got the physique, and he could pull off the sarcasm for Dub. So maybe Dwayne Johnson talked into playing Dub. Yes, I hope so. But no, and I like Don Cheadle as an actor. I like him, but not in this story. So we're gonna clear the air. If Hollywood comes knocking at your door and they say I'm gonna say you can't do this movie. I'm gonna say you can't do the movie. All right. No, it has that appeal. I'll tell them that they have to talk to my director of casting, Parker J. Cole, and work out the details for the casting. But. Hey, you heard it here first. Zoe Saldana is non-negotiable to play Void. Okay, she wins. That character. She wins. That's what I love about Star Wolf is that the potential for it to be on the big screen. And I can imagine who my actors would be, but I totally think that you're gonna love it. That's what I'm letting my listeners know right now. As you get into Shattered Galaxy, as you get into it, you're gonna get that same feeling of like, this is massive. And then you can see yourself like, I cannot wait till the next book. I already told Dave he has to write it for me. He don't have to write the whole book for me. No one else. He can write this for me. And, you know, but I know he wants more money than what I can give him. So I want you to go on Amazon now, get a copy of Star Wolf, okay? You can get the Audible. The audiobook. You can get the Kindle. You get the paperback. It's on Amazon for you. You're going to love it. You're going to get into the world. And as it grows, and like he's explaining Shattered Galaxy, it's more of an episodic story. So there's going to be many stories in this universe. And who doesn't love that? So the potential of it is huge, Dave. And I hope God gives you long life and long ink so you can write this story. From your mouth to God's ears. I know, right? But hey, now I have a question for you. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who was your favorite character? My favorite character is Void. Yeah, I figured she might be. yeah, she's my favorite character. She is crazy. One of the things I loved about this story is I really got to explore some different characters. You know, I got to explore the kind of dour and taciturn, you know, leader that, you know, has his own secrets, but he's gruff on the outside, but he's got a great heart, you know, and Void is basically
the best way to describe her is a high-functioning sociopath. She's a great character, and contrasted, with Mel. She's very feminine, but she has her own strength. And a very, very different character. A lot of people say, how do you write strong female characters? I think, strength comes in many different forms, and I think, Void and Mel, two of the main female leads in this story, couldn't be more different. They're extremely different characters, but they both show an incredible strength of their own. And actually, in the sequel, we're going to see a lot more of just how strong Mel is. We're going to get into a little more of her background and her past and what she's been through, and then it's hinted at in this story, about everything that Mel's been through. But we're going to see more of that in the sequel, and so I think that one of my strengths has always been, not only world building but character building, and I'm really, really proud of the characters in Star Wolf. I think we've got some great engaging cast here, and just the characters gave me so much material to work with that really the story almost wrote itself, because the characters are really vibrant and alive, and they really came to life in my imagination, and they really led the story. Yeah. Oh
yeah. And that's what's so nice about this type of book that you're doing, is that you have so many characters you can relate to. And like Void, I like all the story. Don't get me wrong. I like all of it. But I really like Void because she is this, very aggressive woman. And then you contrast her with Mel. And they're both strong people, though, but just in different ways. And I think if I can go off tangent for 2 seconds, when we talk about feminism and liberation, all that, which I get it, I'm all for it. But, we think that strength is always something really hard, heavy, aggressive, when strength is not always that form of power. There's other types of strength. And I like how you said that and how that's personified in the various characters that you work with, And so when you get a copy of Star Wars, you're going to have a wonderful cast of characters. You're going to find your character that you like. You're going to find your character that you like. And I'm looking forward to that. And I can't wait till Hollywood picks this up or some movie company picks this up, because then I can say, you heard about it first on Right Stuff. I'm looking so forward to that, because I get bragging rights. And so we got a few minutes left, David. So I want people to know where they can find you online. So go ahead and give us your social media outlets.
Okay. Well, I'm on my website is that I'm horrible at updating, but my website is davidglennjohnson.com, which will lead you to some of my other books. But really, Amazon.com, my author page there. You can go and check out all of the works that I've got that's on there. I'm also on Twitter, and really just Facebook. You can find not only my own profile, my author profile, David G. Johnson, but you can find separate pages for the first two of my Kadash Chronicles books that I had, Fool's Errand and Mystic's Mayhem. So there's lots of different ways to track me down and find me online. But honestly, the best page, to really take a look at what I've got out there and the different series that I've played with would be my author page on Amazon. That would be the best place to go. I made the decision to be an Amazon exclusive author, and I've not regretted that decision. They've been a great distribution hub for me, and I'm going to try to use that as my central focus for connecting with fans. And you can sign up and subscribe, to my author page, and you'll get updates when new things become available.
Dave, it's always a pleasure to have you on this show. It's always a pleasure that you have supported this show for the last 4 years and that, Lord you continue to do that. One thing that you've always done is been very open about why you write and why you write the way you do. It's in every book you put in, and you put in your testimony about that. Mm-hmm. Can you share a truncated piece of your testimony and share it with our listeners? Because I want them to know how much of you is in every single word you've written, all the books you've written.
Well, I did come to faith as an adult. I did not grow up in the church. It was a struggle and journey actually to come to faith, because unlike many people, I didn't come to God at a low point in my life. I came to God at a high point in my life. I had everything going for me when God called me to himself. And so it was a very dramatic conversion, and I do give the details about that in the books, and it is an important part of me. And I actually, when I came to faith, I stopped writing for about 6 years. I had always enjoyed writing, but I didn't know how to reconcile. I talked about it earlier. How do you reconcile wanting to teach the truth with telling stories that you know that are untrue? And I really prayed through that, and waited 6 years for an answer from God, and his answer to me was to give me the idea for Kadash Chronicles, and that was really an answer to prayer, and it opened up a road for me to go and write my detective stories, and to now branch into science fiction. And I'm very grateful to God for giving me the way to write these entertaining fictional stories, but do it in a way that honors God and do it in a way that honors the truth. And one of my cardinal rule is speculative fiction is all about asking what if, the question about what if. So the limit I've put on myself is I will never write something deliberately that goes against or contradicts God as we know him and as he's revealed himself in Scripture. So even when we see things like aliens and repentant angels and all of these edgy, controversial things that I try to deal with, none of them are explicitly prohibited inside the Bible. And so I like playing in that gray area. I like pushing the envelope, asking the difficult questions, really have a lot of area to explore with that, but I always do it in a way that I stand firm on God's word, and I don't do anything that tries to contradict God's word. And I think that that is how I've reconciled being able to write fiction while having a heart for telling the truth.
Dave, I can't think of a better way to end the episode today, because I knew that within your testimony, you'll be reaching out to those authors who like speculative fiction and say, can I merge my love for speculative fiction with my love for Christ? And you did that effectively through your testimony. So I'm so glad that you took time out of your schedule to be with me on the show. And thank you so much for letting me showcase Star Wolf today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Parker. You are a blessing to not only myself, but the whole Christian speculative fiction community. We're so grateful for the exposure that you give to authors and the support that you've given us. And you are absolutely not only the queen of Tuesday night, you are the queen of all week long in our eyes, Parker. And so we love you, and we thank you so much for all that you do for the Christian speculative fiction community.
Dave, thank you. That makes me blush. My face is hot right now. Thank you. I appreciate it so much, Dave. And I can't wait to have you back real soon.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Parker. You have a blessed day.
We were talking today to David G. Johnson. He is the author of Star Wolf, which is book 1 of the Shattered Galaxy books. We're going to call it Universe, Shattered Galaxy Universe. And I want you to go ahead and get a copy of this today. If you like audiobooks, this is an audiobook, so go ahead and download it today. If you like your Kindle or your paperback, go ahead and buy a copy. I thoroughly enjoyed Star Wolf, and I know you will too. So go ahead, love on my brother today, and buy a copy of Star Wolf. And hey, don't forget, The Cure is available for you for free today on Amazon.com. And if you want to get the next volume in the Michigan Sweet Romance series written by yours truly, it's 99 cents for a pre-order. Go ahead and get your copy today. Thanks so much for joining me for this edition of the show. I'm the queen of Tuesday nights and all week, Parker J. You have a wonderful, absolutely glorious, blessed day. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Right Stuff. Follow Parker online at parkerjcole.com. To hear this show and other shows, visit the show archive at therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. We'll be back same time next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.